Greetings. Welcome to my channel, Ida the Intuitive. My name's Ida. And I'm gonna be chatting with you about the Hierophant card in tarot today. The Hierophant, the Hierophant, the Hierophant. So, this might be a bit lengthy of a video. You might wanna like watch a little bit and then come back, or depending on where you're at in your journey with the tarot and spiritually, you may know a lot of this information. If you do know the basics, you might want to skip forward a little bit, because I'm going to kind of go into a channeling a little later in the video. So it's like, at the end, you might be like, okay, I needed that at this moment. If you're a lot newer to the tarot, maybe stick closer to the beginning, because that's when I'm going to be kind of going over, more of the basics and some of the things that I've learned. And obviously, I don't know everything, and I feel like even wisdom changes with age. Like, yeah, I've been into this stuff and studying this stuff, but it's like the older you get, the more you realize things, the more you understand things, and then these cards have even more of a meaning, or extra things are added, and I have a little hot chocolate here, a little bit of salted caramel hot chocolate from Trader Joe's. So, get into that. It's winter. I'm depressed. a little bit, I'll say not as depressed as I've been in previous winters. But naturally, it's just kind of like the energy just kind of dims me down. So that's winter. That's winter. But yeah, I'm gonna just take it slow and steady, make it conversational, make it fun, a little bit as fun as I can. And I think something that I'm also learning, I like talking about this information, but I want to give a little bit of a warning as well, depending on your age and depending on just depending on you. This information could be scary to you. It can trip you out. It can be too much. It can be a lot of things. And I know that when you start your spiritual journey, which is kind of one of the meaning of these cards, the Hierophant, and this is the card. So, when you start, it's like you're starting here. And something about the tarot is it goes in like a chronological order as far as the major arcana goes. And so the major arcana are like the big cards that describe big parts of life. Whereas then you have like the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Pentacles, the suits, you know what I mean? Those cards are like more describer cards, descriptive cards. But these cards are like big chunks of information in a card, or bigger themes is what I should say. They're bigger themes, and they go in chronological order. And so it's like, it starts with the Fool, then you have the High Priestess, then you have the Empress, then you have the Emperor, and then you have the Hierophant. So this is the 5th card. That's why that 5 and is up there. And so this is when you kind of start getting into like this spiritual information, you know what I mean? And that's when it can get scary. That's when your life can honestly change. When you start seeing things differently, it changes your whole world. And so that was something that honestly I was not expecting when I started getting into these things. And my life has changed. I can tell you it's changed, and I'm kind of waiting to see what that means for my life, because I don't know. It's like what I thought my life was going to be compared to what it is at the moment, or what I feel like I'm seeing for the future is not exactly what I expected, and not exactly what my first initial life dream was. So I just want to say it is a rabbit hole, and the deeper you go, the more information you receive. You're going to see things differently. You're going to see the people in your life differently. And it's like, if you're ready for that, or if that's your calling, you know, because sometimes it's like you have a calling, a life calling to dive into this stuff, you know, then hopefully this information will be interesting to you. But that's not everybody's calling in every lifetime. So, yeah. I don't know if you know that song. I was listening to that song, just a little side note. It's called Satisfied. And I really don't know who it is by originally, but like the Walls group, which is like a gospel group of like 4 people, were sing it a lot. The Walls group, Satisfied. And in the song, it's really talking about like, if I don't have the money and I don't have the fame and I don't have this, will I be satisfied with you? Meaning, will I be satisfied with God, right? Like, will I be satisfied with my connection to God if I don't have everything else, if I don't get the money, if I don't get the fame, if nobody knows my name, you know? And sometimes I feel like getting into this kind of information almost like halfway naturally wipes out your ego. It wipes out those desires, or it's like makes it harder for you to achieve those desires because of just the trickiness that comes with trying to get it. You know what I mean? And I not to say that you can't find a balance, but just that like it makes you look at that differently. Like your first dream may have been to be like really decked out with all the money and all of it and doing the damn thing, and everybody knows you for what you're doing. You know what I mean? And then it's like you realize what it takes to do that, and how it's not, you know, that people are dishonest just in general, you know, like even within this card and the themes of this card, there is dishonesty. You know, there is dishonesty. There is like, even a gatekeeping, I'd say, for that. So, you know, it really can just turn your mind around. It can really turn you around. And ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Yeah, turn me. Yeah, hey, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no. Yeah, hey, turn me. So, anyways, let's get into the Hierophant. Okay, so here is 4 examples of the Hierophant from 4 different decks. This is your classic Rider-Waite deck. Ooh, I'm trying to just show it, and I'll just get a little bit. This is your classic one from the Rider-Waite deck. I want to share also, this fits with this information, that it was a Black woman that drew the photos to the Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is like the first, I can't say the first tarot deck, but I feel like it's the first really known popular tarot deck, and it's actually a Black woman who did the illustrations. If I don't have the cover to this deck, I'm blanking on her name, but it is a Black woman. So bada bing, holler, okay? And Here's a classic one. Here is a little bit more, you know, and this is why, you know, this is not really for kids. Just with the, even with the decks that I'm using, this is called the Monera deck by Los Scarabeo. It's all covered. It's kind of like, overall, it's covered. But this is the Hierophant in that deck. And this is a very like sensual deck. And so what I think is funny about this is like, let me tell you what the Hierophant means. So in the tarot, if you pull the Hierophant card upright, it represents spiritual wisdom, religious beliefs, tradition, conformity, and institutions. So that's what it means upright when it comes out upright. If it comes out reversed, it can mean your own personal beliefs, freedom, and challenging the status quo. So that can mean a lot of different things, you know what I mean? But how I was saying this information goes deep. If you look at this card, it's like this person that kind of has this kind of Hierophant gear on is like seeing the secrets of life and kind of shocked by it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh my God, right? Like they're looking into this woman's, you know what I'm saying? And like shocked because it's just let all out to them in the open. That's what the Hierophant can mean. That's what spiritual wisdom can represent in general. Just kind of like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like it really is. It really, really is. And I have a little bit more notes with that. So here's another deck. This is the Intuitive Night Goddess deck. And in this one, it's called the Mystic. And so if you've heard the word the mystic, it's like somebody that's kind of spiritually guided, carried by the wind is what I heard in my mind. It kind of makes me think even of Pocahontas, if we're talking like, can you paint with all the colors of the wind? What's around the river band, just around the river band? You know, I feel something changing. Like what is God gonna show me? What is the universe gonna show me? The mystic, right? So in something, this is the Intuitive Night Goddess deck. So this is kind of another version of the Hierophant. I would even say that this is of a more liberal version of like your classic Hierophant. Like how I was saying, like this is like encouraging you to also find your own beliefs and to challenge the status quo just by the picture alone. And you know, it's like every tarot deck kind of encourages different things by the pictures. And then here's one more. This is a deck that is a voodoo deck. So it shows, you know, it also talks about different loa with the pictures on the card. And so this is a Hierophant card and it's called Master of the Head. And do you see how it's like this person has opened up, kind of, it looks like an urn and the spirits are coming out to give you mind information, right? So all of that goes with the Hierophant. Take a sip. All of that goes with the Hierophant. Okay. So now that I gave you the basics, I'm gonna go in just a little bit deeper of what it could mean or some other ways to think about the Hierophant when it comes out in a reading or whatever, or for yourself or whatever. So first is something about the right hand. The right hand. So I want to show you how in this classic deck, This man has his right hand up. And something about, you know, to me, the symbolism of the hands in general, you know that Gemini rules the arms, right? The hands and the arms, like both of the arms. And so, Gemini is like also a very communicative sign. And in a way, although it doesn't, I feel like Sagittarius is more of like the higher knowledge. Sagittarius and Aquarius is kind of more like higher mind, spiritual knowledge. It's like something about the hands and like the way of communicating and like sharing information just feels significant with the right hand. And then I'm hearing, I don't know why I'm hearing that song, Right Hand. You're my right hand. You're my go-to. Tell me everything you've been through. That's a bold move. Wait. You're my right hand. You're my go-to. Tell me everything about you. That's a bold move. You know? That's a bold move. Like, so I don't know. But I just kind of got that with that. So the right hand. And I'm thinking also kind of like left mind and right mind. One mind is more logical while the other is more, I don't know if it's emotional, right? And so the right hand, which I feel like is the right, is the more logical. So like holding the keys and then also sharing this information to other people. And so like even me sharing this with you is me putting on the hat of the Hierophant right now to give you this information, right? To share with you what I've learned is kind of me like this to whoever watches this video. I keep noticing how these folks don't have no hair. And this information also ages the fuck out of you. And that's why I feel like they're bald. Like scalp snatched from this information. I really feel that way. I feel like that's why they're bald, because they're learning all this information, and it's like the information can stress the hell out of you. Stress you out. And so I feel like that's kind of what that represents in a way of like you trying to take in all this information. It's like I'm losing hair. This is so much info. My hair is falling out, you know, like that's what it means to me, kind of. It could also mean that like this information, older folks kind of hold this information and this wisdom from like living a life, you know, one way to think about it. So also stag, deer, or hart, which means like I feel like a male deer. And that to me can mean a lot of things. A Hierophant can be traditionally a husband, right? Like your husband. And I got that belonging to the goddess. Here's what I'll say. I'll tell you about this because it's like, this is not, I don't want to hold this information, but be weary about using this website because it's a little weird. It can just be scary. But like if you like to use dice and roll dice, there's a website called Lexiconcordance, LEXICONCORDANCE, Lexiconcordance. And in that, you can put in a number, and then it'll give you what the number signifies in the Bible. There's like a Greek Bible, there's the Hebrew Bible. It doesn't really have like your kind of classic Christian Bible per se, though. But it's like, so these were some of the numbers and the meanings that I was getting as I was gathering information about the Hierophant. And why I'm saying it's scary is like, it just can be crazy how the number is so spot on and gives you the information that you're looking for when you're connected. But I just, I would say use it, get like 3 numbers. Like, because I wouldn't recommend just like asking what's gonna happen today or what's gonna happen tomorrow and then trying to pull numbers to figure it out and stuff like that. And that's from personal experience, because it's like people have free will and things are changing all the time. So it's like, I just wouldn't recommend that. Don't do that. But if you wanna like learn something, pull a number. If you want to learn something about something or you need more insight, but don't, and I feel like that's just with tarot in general that I'm still trying to teach myself, is like, don't try to learn it all at once. Don't try to be a crone before you're a crone. Like, I just feel like there is a chronological aspect of life, you know what I mean, of just like, I heard it's levels to the shit, you know what I mean? So you don't want to be, I don't know, it's like there's certain things that you learn with age, and then there's some things, it just depends on where you're at. It depends on where you're at in your life. But it's like this stuff scared me and like really kind of slowed me down in a way when I started to learn it, and like it just really wasn't good for my head space. It just wasn't. It really wasn't. It stressed me out. And I feel like I'm happy I have this information and I'm happy that I can share it. But it definitely took me a minute to get my bearings. When you start to really piece it all together and when the downloads start to really come through, it's like, what is my life? What is my life? What is my life? What is my life? And this can happen to anyone. Like, this isn't me saying like, oh, because I'm so spiritually advanced. If you want to learn about the tarot, like it's the actual knowing of it that unlocks the brain. It's really not necessarily about who you are and your personal destiny. It's the literal knowledge and the unlocking of the knowledge that makes you see the world differently, that changes your life. So it's not like they're better because they have that. Not really. It's literally the knowledge itself. So then I got the number 314 behind subsequent Western. So I thought that was interesting, behind. The Hierophant could also be somebody, I just heard an old head, but what that made me think of is somebody that's very stuck in their own ways and is behind on the way the world is growing and changing. And so they're kind of stuck in their own traditional ways. That can also be a Hierophant, right? Your grandfather that's like telling you to do something one way when nobody has done it that way in like 10 years. But that's what they know. And so it feels tried and true to them, right? But sometimes that can mean behind. Like that can just mean like you're a little behind, like you're behind what's current. And so what was I saying? Yeah, belonging to the goddess. And so that's why it can be a husband, like your traditional husband. Even the person that marries the husband and the wife can be the Hierophant, because what are they doing? They're reading the I forget what that's called, to marry two people, but also a husband. A firstborn. So the firstborn in the family can represent the Hierophant because it's like they're the first one in the family. I thought about the Baron or the Baron, right? Of like in your ancestors, the Baron. It's like saying it weird, the Baron. But like the grandfather, like your ancestors are like the first ancestor. Even sometimes to you that you know what I mean? Like your grandfather, like the grandfather that your great-great-grandfather that you know of. Because sometimes it's like you don't know the oldest, you're not going to know your oldest ancestor. But you know what I mean? The firstborn. But so, you know, like your oldest brother or sister, right? And feminines can be in this energy as well. It's not just men. It's really not gender specific. It's just a hat. You know, it's a hat that you can wear. So with the firstborn, then I got the opening of the matrix. And this is kind of what I was saying with this card right here. The opening of the matrix. Think about birth, childbirth, and like how the womb is like its own matrix in a sense. And so it's like, oh, the opening of the matrix is this information, right? And it's like, go watch the Matrix. I feel like when I first heard of the Matrix, I didn't really understand. I'm like, okay, you know, like it's a movie, like a, you know, just a space movie. But it's actually, it's like a veil of what really is. And I'm not going to go any further with that. But it's like, nobody knows. And I just heard, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows. And like, it's kind of like that. Even if you think about a woman giving birth, like only women know that pain. Only women know. Only like the dark feminine, only the dark kind of scorpionic energy. This like hidden energy. Only, not everybody knows. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody knows. So the opening of the matrix is what I thought of. When you start getting into that spiritual wisdom, it's like the opening of the matrix. Then I got this, so this other number, 5611, a numbering I still didn't, I didn't quite get the numbering part. I didn't get what that meant. But then my father is a wall. My father is a wall. And you know what I took that as? This was what was crazy to me. And like, here, let's do a little energy cleanse really quick, because I feel it getting just like, you know, it's just a lot of information to take in. But I thought of this as your father can literally be a wall to opening the matrix. Think about that. I want you to think about that. And I want to ask women to think about that, of like, sometimes your father, the father figures in your life, can kind of set the theme on how you see the world, how you see men, but how you see kind of everything, and that they can sometimes be the blocker, literally, of opening the matrix. Like I hear that a lot of, you know, it's like who your father was to you, how they treated you, how they raised you. And I think parents just in general, but it's kind of like that first bit of information that you get from your family is like your first knowledge. It's your first knowledge. So then when you start to open the matrix, it's kind of like moving your parents aside, moving the knowledge that you received aside, even like the traditional knowledge that you get from school. The Hierophant can also be just a regular teacher, right? Like your regular 6th grade, 7th grade teacher, high school teacher, college teacher can wear the hat of the Hierophant. But are they teaching necessarily like spiritual, mystical information? No. So it's like when you're diving into that, you're moving your other teachers aside for a second and then transferring in this new information. And that, you know, is what I mean of like the father is a wall. In certain cases, this can be a spiritual leader, a pastor, I'm even thinking like Sadhguru, you know, somebody, a spiritual wisdom, somebody with a lot of spiritual wisdom that shares their spiritual wisdom with others can be a Hierophant. But I'm thinking, you know, classically, it can be like that old school pastor that really can be a Hierophant in reverse because they're sharing like their own views, you know, that maybe don't open up space for you. And I feel like even that transfers in naturally. Like, it's like, even though I'm sharing this information with you, I'm also putting like my own experiences and my own understanding in it as well. So it's like, take what I say with a grain of salt. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's another thing about receiving this information. It's like, not everyone is gonna, it's kind of like Marco Polo. And I heard that in my head, Marco Polo. And then a while ago, and I really didn't know. I didn't know. But I am kind of seeing that now. Or that game Telephone, where it's like you whisper and then the person who gets it last has a whole different word. Getting this information is kind of like that. And I think it's like that because if we knew everything, we'd have no reason to be on this earth in the first place. You know, it's like we'd have no reason to be here if we knew how everything worked, if we knew, like, if the whole veil just got ripped and we could see everything for exactly what it is and not have our own perception added. I don't think it would be good. And I don't think that we could handle it. You know what I mean? And so that's a part of it too. And so I think, I don't know, it's like, it's, you don't have to take it so seriously. I kind of have a problem with that, of like taking certain things very seriously and like, it's, you know, this deep information and like, you know, let me put my long black cloak on and like never leave the house and just drink in this information. And it's kind of like, I myself am even trying to like find a way to liven that up, liven my life up. Seriously, because it's just like, I don't know, it's a great information though to have, and it helps you navigate life differently. But I'm learning, like, you don't have to take it hella seriously, you know, because there's a limit to what we can literally perceive as well. So let me see, what else? Oh, yeah. So then I got 141. My Lord is exalted. My Lord is exalted. And so that's kind of what I felt of, like, it's very lofty information. And I kind of ended up drawing a UFO. And like, so it made me think kind of aliens in a sense. Something about that. Hold on. Something about that resonated with me, aliens, but I didn't quite fully understand what that meant either. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm gonna just move forward with it. But I got 6131 to pluck up, root up. And so this was interesting me too. Hold on. I'm gonna Palo Santo again. So yeah, I just have a few more to go through of like more classic, and then I want to give you kind of like pop culture examples of the Hierophant too. or just kind of more like, you know, random things that can represent the Hierophant too. But what was I gonna say? Yes. So how I was saying in the beginning, right, that when you get this information, it can turn your life upside down. Sometimes when you end up in the role of the Hierophant, and Spirit is asking me to thank my ancestors for giving me the courage to share this information. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me and sharing this information with whoever ends up stumbling upon this video and wanting to watch it. Because they're holding me right now. They're holding me right now. So thank you. And thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for giving me a clear channel to receive this information and share it. And please cover those that receive this information as well. May they take only what they need at the moment and not more than they can handle or not more than they need at the moment. Amen. Okay. Right. So what I was saying is, when someone gains this information, right, and your whole world can kind of like turn around, that it can sometimes be that then you can kind of have the scars to show for that transformation that you went through. So I will give you an example, kind of a more, you know, not too heavy of a example, but just like another example later. But just that it can kind of feel like being dragged into a whole new dimension of understanding, and that sometimes it can represent, like, I don't know, like, if you have, when you started to learn this information, for anyone who has been doing it for a little bit now, however long, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, something like that, and, you know, has your life changed? Have you had a moment that really kind of switched your life up for real? You know, sometimes, trigger warning, you know, near death experiences, you know what I'm saying? And like sometimes not even realizing it, sometimes it can just be traumatic, bodily traumatic or mentally traumatic, where it's like it shows you get shown the power of the spiritual realm, and even like the protection that your guides have over you, things like that, you know what I mean? And that's why I'm saying, it's like people go through that anyways, right? There are people who have never really dived into this stuff and go through traumatic stuff that makes them see their life differently. But it's like this information, and the opening of this information can sometimes open very, like, and I just heard soap opera, but sometimes it can feel literally just like very dramatic, you know what I mean? Like very dramatic, interesting things happening. So again, you know, just think about it. So that's what I meant of like being uprooted. In some cases, I think also when someone is not willing to open their eyes and they need more of this information, God will come through and put you through something that forces you to open your eyes to Hierophant knowledge. You know what I mean? Someone who's been, you know, abusive and egotistical and just thinking they can do whatever for so long, to the point where it's hurting so many people, and then it's like they're forced to wake up, you know, and see something for the first time that makes them feel like they either have to change or forces them to change in some kind of way. You know what I mean? So sometimes in some cases it can be like that. What else did I write down? Yeah. So then I'm going to just pull us into one more time, and then I can get into just some other things about the Hierophant, right? So a father, an older brother, a grandfather, an uncle can be in the Hierophant, somebody that teaches you something, your teacher, your soccer teacher, right? Teaching you something about something, the ins and outs of something can be the Hierophant. But right, in like a more mundane sense, but it is like spiritual knowledge as well, right? So this is what I got made in his image, made in his image, right? Made in God's image. When somebody say they're made in God's image, that made me think of just somebody that's very like handsome. Even that came through, and I was trying to really understand why. I really was, but I feel like more mundanely it can literally just represent somebody that is like made in God's image, right? Just like a very like attractive, and not like the emperor attractive, you know what I mean, but more of like a wisdom, a wisdom kind of thing, you know what I mean? Not necessarily just like, oh, or like the King of Wands might be kind of like how we think of somebody that's attractive, you know, like, oh, he's hot, King of Wands, but then it's like the Hierophant gives like something a little bit different, something a little bit wiser, and like, yeah, I don't know, that came through. Let me get my phone so I can show. Do 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 do. And I literally wrote down Bay, so I don't know. Belongs to the goddess. And so I think there's also another conversation of like when you become an empress, right? When you start to move in a more empress kind of way, it's like everybody prays, all the empresses pray that they meet their Hierophant, right? Like a wise, mature man that like isn't on that fuck shit anymore, right? Like they went from King of Wands to the Hierophant, or even to the emperor, but I think sometimes the emperor can be somebody that you know, it's just a grown man, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're wise in their decisions. And I feel like that's why it comes before the Hierophant in the chronological order, you know what I mean? But it's like all the goddesses want that spiritual man that's like wise and all of that. So I feel like that's why Spirit brought that up. Okay. So what else? And so then I got, yeah, I got a download right now, but I won't share that one. I'm just going to move into the more of the whatever, a little bit lighter of examples. So one of them is literally Kakashi Sensei from Naruto came through to me, right? The idea of a sensei in general is already Hierophant energy. And I feel like in Naruto, it particularly, it's like he's giving them the knowledge for life, right? Like him and all the other senseis. But I like the example of him because, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the show, and he's so hot, dude. I can't lie. I couldn't lie. Like, character or not, just a beautiful character. I just love this character. And when I was writing stuff down, Spirit's like, that's why you like him, because he's a Hierophant. And he really does play that energy of just kind of like a wise man, a kind of quiet man who seems to have, right, a lot more underneath the surface. What happened to him, which is why he wears his mask like that, because something happened to his eye, right? Being plucked up and uprooted in some kind of way. As he was training as a young, what are they called? Shinobi. A young shinobi is when his eye got damaged from this crazy experience that he went through. But he lived to tell the tale, and that's why he has to cover it. And he also has powers with that eye, and that's why he also has to hide it, right? So it's like he's in that energy already of like, this man knows something. He really has something to give to these kids. You know what I mean? And like, he popped up into my mind. And I, like, literally, he's just such a beautiful character to me. Like, I'm at a point where I'm like, I want to get a sticker and put it on my car. But I also just like, I like that show a lot. But, so he popped up, Kakashi Sensei. The Anunnaki came up. And so the Anunnaki, just look up the Anunnaki. Look it up. That's not something that I could do a video on it. But I remember 2 years ago, I asked Spirit, what do they look like? What do the Anunnaki look like? And Spirit showed me the face of an Anunnaki. And like, they literally are like, they just have long beards, long hair, and kind of look like an East African man or a Middle Eastern man. And I don't want to show, I drew a picture. I'm not going to show it because it's an interesting picture. But it was, I don't know, it was crazy when I got that vision because it was just very vivid. And the Anunnaki are kind of like it's like they held a lot of wisdom. Somalian, back in like Somalia is kind of like, you just need to look it up. I'm not going to share too much. Okay, so it can represent, holding somebody that holds wisdom of past lifetimes. So sometimes when you think of the High Priestess card, that can also be a very intuitive person, kind of in their feminine energy. I feel like a High Priestess can be a Hierophant as well. The Hierophant is going to teach it and share it. The High Priestess is going to know it, hold it, and use it. But it's a lot more secretive than the Hierophant, right? So both of them can have the wisdom of past lifetimes, but it's like, am I sharing this information to you so you can use it? Or am I using it for me and holding it in and letting it guide me personally, right? Like, I feel like they can kind of go hand in hand in that way. Then I heard everybody needs you. And so everybody needs you. That just kind of made me think of a teacher, somebody who is like highly revered in a way. And I don't know, maybe Frank Ocean. I don't know. I'm not sure. But just like, maybe Frank Ocean really is this kind of person, But this kind of thing of like, everybody needs you. Everybody wants to ask you something. It makes me think of a teacher in school. Everybody has to say, excuse me, can you tell me this? Excuse me, I need to know that. Everybody needs you. Your family needs you. Somebody needs you. We want to know this from you. Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? Somebody, that's revered in that way. We want to talk to you. Do you have time? Talk to me about this. Where are you at? I want to know about this. Like, what are you doing? Let's do this. That can be Hierophant energy as well. Somebody that people appreciate their energy and the wisdom and that they have to share. It can be a boss, right? Your boss can be the Hierophant. They have the wisdom of whatever job you are a part of. They control stuff, a boss. The president can be seen as a Hierophant in some cases, an authority figure, a cop, right? Or some sort of lawyer can also be a Hierophant. And get this, Hierophant hieroglyphics. So, you know, like Egyptian hieroglyphics, right? That they would write in like the caves and stuff that have this like ancient information. That's the kind of the same thing as like it's ancient info. Um, and then I got the birds and the bees. And that to me just made me think of like traditional beliefs, whether that be just like religious beliefs of what is sex and what is, and that plays a part. That plays a part in kind of this hidden information. Going back to Kakashi Sensei, how he would always be reading that book. Like, and they're like, what is he reading? And he always wanted to get the next volume, right? But like, it ended up being like, I think it's like a porn book or whatever. I don't know, like one of those books with like pictures in it. And like, you know, sometimes he'd be reading it, but they didn't know what he was reading. And they're like, what is that? And he was like talking about it with somebody else. Like, oh, you got me the new book. Like two of the older men were talking about the book. And the younger shinobi are like, what are you talking about, right? And so even like receiving the knowledge about the birds and the bees, it's like you grow up a little bit when you receive that information for the first time. And you're like, oh shit, right? It's in a literal like opening of information that changes you. And so spiritual information is like that too. So that came through. It can represent something like that. And so that's all the information that I have to share with you about the Hierophant. I'm seeing someone exalted, somebody, and I already said that again, somebody exalted. So I don't know, that might be just spirit wanting me to celebrate other hierophants. I don't know. I'm seeing it in a couple different ways, but something about like exaltation, being exalted, being just like in a beautiful, high honor is kind of what I'm feeling, like high honor. Institutions. Yeah. Reversed personal beliefs, freedom, and challenging the status quo. Yeah, I think that's how I want to end it too, because how I was saying in the beginning, taking everything with a grain of salt, because everything that we are taught here in the world isn't necessarily like always like the best information for everybody. Like me as a black woman, there are going to be certain things that are not going to empower me to make the best decisions for myself that I may be taught in school, in college, whatever you decide to study, right? Like things are kind of naturally rooted, right? In colonialism and white supremacy and like just like old teachings that don't always help everybody. So that's why it's like, also when you learn these things, when you go to church, and honestly it's just kind of like, again, anyone who is not anyone that is not agreeing with this information, please know that I'm okay with that. And that I'm not trying to compete with anybody's wisdom. Like if you're a Christian, more power to you. I believe everyone needs to believe what they need, Like, that's just not even what I care about. But it's just kind of like, wherever you get your information from, be able to keep an open mind of other perspectives and possibilities. Because the reality is, we all are here on this earth together, and we're not all gonna agree on the same things. And it's like, yeah, the company you keep matters. You want to have people around you that can relate to you. But it's like, also, there's gonna be folks that just, you don't see eye to eye, and that's okay. But then it's like, the truth is always the truth. And I feel like to the core of this card, is like the truth that cannot be shaken, the truth that can't be shaken, the truth that can't be changed. And it's like, who knows who really is gonna get all the way to the deep core of it? You know what I'm saying? It's deep. It's like, who knows who all is gonna find it, and what it really means, and how long you can hold on to it. Sometimes it's like, I feel like we take a glimpse or have an idea of the truth, like the real core, like deep core of the earth truth. And then we lose it, we forget about it, we don't understand it, time goes by. That's probably good. But it's like, there is like a higher truth that cannot be changed, or, you know, like, there is a higher truth that sometimes is even unreachable to all of us, you know, that are here as earthlings. So there's that to think about too. You know? And that makes me even think of like the depths of the ocean that nobody can get all the way down to. There's just things we're meant to not know. And it doesn't go well when we try to get down there and act like we know, right? We don't know. So it's like, we don't know how. I'm thinking even like physically how babies are made. We know like the fetus, we understand like physically how they're made, but there's more to it, right? That we can't always grasp, of like, where did the spirit come from? There's so many things, and there's some truths that we just are not able to touch. And those are like the higher truths. And that's just what that made me think of, right? Like, not everything is in reach to us. And that's okay. All right. So that's all, y'all. That's it. That is my sharing with my ancestors and God's support, of sharing kind of the symbolism and the meaning of the Hierophant card. Woo! So take a breath. Take a couple of breaths. Take a couple of breaths. Yo. You know what I wish I had is one of those like bing things that clear the energy, because it's a lot of information. I don't have one. Maybe I'll be able to grab one day soon. But I need one, because like sometimes you gotta clear that out. Bling! Like, clear the air, because your mind is like, you can feel your mind. You tell me you don't feel your mind doing some things. If you either watch this whole video, or if you just know in general with the spiritual information, you tell me your mind isn't doing something like this right now. Because it's literally drinking it up like a drink, okay? Like, this is real shit. So yeah, that's all, y'all. That's all, y'all. Yay. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? subsequent, subsequent, subsequent. Subsequent. I don't know. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's it. Right in an hour. I like that. I like that. So y'all take care. Okay, I'm gonna see you in the next one. We'll see what else, what else comes to mind, if there's anything else. Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. I don't know. But that's the Hierophant, okay? Take care. Be well. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you in the next one.